Well, hello there, and welcome to the Virtual Training Company's presentation of Introduction to Windows 8. My name is Mark Long, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course. And we're going to take a good in-depth look at Windows 8, Microsoft's newest version of the Windows operating system. Now, they have created a splash with the introduction of Windows 8 all through the beta versions, the release previews, and release candidates, all the way up to RTM and final release. This thing has created a lot of talk and a lot of speculation out there. Some people are intimidated by the bold new look and different things that operate in it. Other people have embraced it and absolutely love it. And I'm going to tell you, I fell into the camp of, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? The first time I saw it, then it didn't take very long to put me firmly in the camp of, this is some pretty cool stuff, and with just a little bit of vision you can see where Microsoft's headed with this, and it's going to be really great later on. But for now, we're just going to jump into Windows 8. I'm going to talk to you about all kinds of things, how to get it, how to load it, how to follow me through a lot of demos. We're going to play with the system, we're going to work with it, see some of the ins and outs, some of the undocumented issues and functionalities that you can get out of Windows 8. But you're going to learn a lot about Windows 8 here, so get comfortable and let's get started. Thanks for being here. Now, before we jump into the course, let me give you an overview so that you can kind of have a little roadmap of where we're going to go and know what to expect as we move through the course. I'm going to start off with some generic introductory things about Windows 8. First of all, most important, I guess, is how to get your hands on a copy of this so that you can step through the examples with me. And then I'm going to start to talk about why Windows 8, why Microsoft has made some of the decisions they've made, what their design goals were when they created Windows 8, what they're shooting for, why it looks and feels and acts like it does. Then we're going to jump into installing Windows 8. I'm going to take you through a standard install. And then for the first time, I've never really talked about that in a lot of these operating system courses, but I'm going to talk to you about dual booting Windows 8, take you through a demo on that, show you how it works, how it looks, how it acts, show you some neat tools that you can actually install off of a USB stick. Real neat stuff in here. Then we'll talk about what's new in Windows 8, and there's certainly a lot. We won't cover everything that's new. We'll cover the things that you're really going to see and use a lot. It would probably take, I don't know, a 3 or 4 week course to cover all the little new nuances in Windows 8, but we're going to touch on the major ones you need to be aware of. Then we'll talk about using a mouse with Windows 8. Now, this course is really going to key on working on Windows 8 as a desktop application, but everything you learn here will transfer over into a slate, and we're going to talk about Windows 8 touch interface. I'll run a little simulator, show you what it's going to look like on a slate device, what we now know as tablet, and you'll see that, you'll see some examples, and then I've got some resources out there for touch gestures. Then we'll talk about keyboard shortcuts. There's some really great keyboard shortcuts for Windows 8, and you will be wearing those out by the time we get to the end of this course. Printing in Windows 8 is totally different. There's a new printing architecture. I won't go into that because that's kind of techy and nerdy and kind of boring for you, but I'll show you how to print in Windows 8, how to make things come out. It is different. The start screen, this is the thing that's got everybody in an uproar. People love it, people hate it, everybody's talking about it. We will go through the start screen, okay, quite thoroughly in this course, because this is the essence of Windows 8. Now let me warn you, you're going to hear a lot of things 2, 3, and 4 times because you need to see it in a lot of different contexts from a lot of different angles, and so I'm going to cover that as we go through here. Now, when we talk about the start screen or the start menu, I'm going to talk about customizing that thing, opening and closing apps, naming sections of the start screen, adding tiles to the start menu. This has been a mystery for a lot of people. The lock screen, working with the tiles themselves, snapping apps, how do I actually start up or shut down the machine. And then we'll get onto the charm bar, the little bar on the right, and we'll talk about all things charms, searching for things, sharing, the lonely start button that's out there, working with devices, working with settings. Then we'll switch our concentration to the desktop, and once we get to the desktop we will start to dig into the old friend that we've all known, and you'll start to feel like you've come back home again, and you'll feel a little more comfortable about Windows 8. Then we'll talk about Windows at Work just a little bit, and I wrestled with whether to put this in here, but I'm sure we've got a lot of people looking at this course who are network administrators or they work in administration, and they're wondering what the impact of this is going to be as a client tool out there on the network, and it's built to be the preferred client for Windows Server 2012, by the way. I'll touch on that stuff. Not really going to go into depth, but I'll show you the new features, and there's some really impressive stuff. Then we'll talk about, for the mad scientist developers that are out there watching, some developer info. You really can't cover Windows 8 without talking about this, because Microsoft's really trying to encourage developers to write apps for that Windows Store, which we'll talk about. Then I'm just going to show you quickly some fun apps that Microsoft has included, like weather, finance, travel. And these things are included for functionality, but also to give you and to give developers an idea of what kind of functionality can be built in to these Windows 8 applications. And again, I'll talk about this later on in the course, these things were called Metro apps, and Microsoft dropped the Metro app name right before the consumer release of the operating system really began to show up out there. Shortly after RTM, they changed that. Okay. Anyway, then I'll end the course. We'll do some tips and tricks, just show you a couple little things that have popped up that have become problematic for people early on. Then I'll show you some tips and tricks around those things, some new functionalities that are really, really nice. And then we'll be done. We're going to cover a lot of information here. I don't know how many videos, quite a few. And so just kind of grab something to drink, grab a comfortable place, get you a laptop or a desktop, and install Windows 8 along with me, and step through the demos, and I think you're really going to be impressed with what you see. So let's get busy. One of the big questions when you consider Windows 8, and probably the most basic question, is this: what's new? What am I going to see that's going to be different from Windows 7? Well, there's a number of obvious changes in Windows 8, and then there's some not so obvious changes. Well, let's talk about some of the obvious changes right now. Metro apps, and of course we're talking about these things right here. It's an app that when you open it up, it goes full screen, and it does all kind of cool things for you, but it always operates full screen. And as you can see here, they're very graphical. There's all kind of cool stuff going on the way you work with them. And so that's one thing that's going to happen. And so Metro apps, the whole tiles thing on the desktop, on the start menu, and that start screen that you see, and I'm going to switch back there, I won't make you sick, I promise, but this is the start screen, and you will also hear it referred to as the home screen in a lot of the Microsoft documentation. So just know that that's what they're talking about. The start bar has disappeared. Or the start button especially has disappeared from the interface, and we're going to talk about that. It really hasn't disappeared, it's just not as obvious as it used to be. There's a new lock screen that's full screen. We'll take a look at that a little bit later on. The Windows Store, you'll notice that when you first go in, there is a tile out here called Store, and this is actually the Windows Store. It's very similar to the App Store on the Mac platform, and you'll notice you can see all kinds of things out here, and you're going to see more and more things show up out here as time goes on. And so the Windows Store is a big new addition. Then you can automatically sync your data to the cloud, and then that data will show up on other Windows 8 machines that you have. It's going to be a really neat feature. And then there's an Office style ribbon in Windows Explorer, and if I go to the desktop, and to do that I will have to jump out here like this, and when I get to the desktop, if I open a window, you'll notice it looks just like the old Windows Explorer, but I have a little chevron symbol here, and if I expand that, I see the Office ribbon inside here, and you can see that I can do all kinds of cool things with these toolbars up here, just like I can in Windows. And that's kind of cool. And so then the last thing we'll talk about here is performance, and we'll dig into that a little bit later. You're going to like the way Windows 8 performs in comparison to prior operating systems. Now, there's a number of not so obvious changes. There's a new task manager. It's the same old task manager on one part, but then there's a whole lot of new features. We'll take a look at that later in a separate video. Don't know if you noticed or not, but there's square, not rounded corners on the windows. Not a big deal, but it's kind of neat to see. You can also do pinch to zoom on any of the apps in the Metro Internet Explorer, but also almost all the apps in Metro, you can do the pinch zoom because you'll probably be using these apps on smaller format devices a little bit later on. Corner menus, we'll talk about those as we go. They're not obvious, but they're really neat. The tools menu, this is a really neat thing. We'll see it, and you just right click on the lower left corner to see tools show up. And then enhanced multi-monitor features. This one's really nice. If you ever worked on the Apple platform and you can set different desktops on different monitors, you can show the taskbar on both monitors and all that. It's just really, really neat stuff. And then there's quite a few technical architectural enhancements, especially in some of the business and enterprise versions. So lots going on in Windows 8, and we're going to dig into all of these and some more as we go through the course here. Now, before we really dive into the course here, let's talk about how you can get your hands on a copy of Windows 8 so that you can go through some of the installations that I'm going to show you and work through a lot of the examples that I'm going to show you with the interface. The first thing you want to do is go to Microsoft.com, www.microsoft.com. This is the home page, and what I want you to do on the search bar right up here at the top is just search Windows 8 Enterprise. Once you get that spelled correctly, hit return, and this will go search the website. And notice what we're looking for here is the Windows 8 Enterprise Evaluation. Now, be warned, by the time you get this video, Microsoft may have moved this around and yours may not show up at the top of the list, but find the Windows 8 Evaluation page. Now, this is what it looks like today. Again, the style and the look and all will change. And there's lots of information here about it, but notice you can get a Windows 8 Enterprise 90-day evaluation. Now, technically, Microsoft's saying this is for developers, but anybody can get this. And so if you scroll down to the bottom, they have all kinds of information here that you can read, okay? And I will leave that to you later. Notice I can get the 32-bit version or I can get the 64-bit version. So whichever you would like, grab that. You're going to be downloading an ISO image. We'll talk about those later. And so notice though that when I click on the download the 32-bit version, it's going to take me to a website that's asking me to sign in with my Microsoft account, and I will have to have one of those. If you don't have one, you can just simply come down here and sign up and go through that process, get you a Microsoft account, and then you will be able to download these ISOs. Now, what's the catch on this and what's the deal? Well, you're getting a 90-day evaluation period. And at the end of 90 days, the software will continue working. The desktop's going to go black on you. You're going to get an automatic shutdown every hour. All kind of things are going to pop up from time to time saying, hey, you need to take care of this. This is evaluation software and it's expired. And you cannot upgrade to the final version, so you'll have to blow this away. So don't put anything out here on this version that you want to keep. Don't save any documents out here, but you will get addicted to it really quickly. Okay, so anyway, this gets you the version that you need to step through the course here. Okay, if you're a TechNet or an MSDN subscriber, you already have it. Just go download it. It'll be the same thing. Now, if you do this, you're going to get the Enterprise evaluation. A lot of the things I'm going to use in the course here are going to be the Professional edition, but there's no difference in those. There's a little bit of difference in functionalities, but we're not going that deep in this course. I want to help you with the interface, the overall workings of Windows 8, and how you can use it to get up to speed real quickly. So that's how to get yourself a copy of Windows 8 and work right along with me in the course. To say that the new Windows 8 operating system is a dramatic departure from the prior versions of Windows is quite an understatement. As you can see here, this thing looks drastically different. It looks really slick, and there's a lot going on. But when you first look at this, the question that first comes to your mind is, wait a minute, why do we even need Windows 8? So let's start here in the course. And as we get started, let me just let you know, by the time we get through this course, I would almost bet you're going to be addicted to Windows 8, and you're just simply going to have it on your machine. When you first look at it, it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. It just doesn't feel like Windows, but you get over that really quickly, especially when you understand the start menu in the desktop, and we'll get to that. Now, there's two very common reviews on Windows 8, and almost all reviews fall into one of these categories. This will change the way we live and work with computers, or this will fail miserably. Now, this is a common case of either the glass is half full or half empty, and you can kind of see that work out in the reviews. Understand, Windows 8 from Microsoft is a huge gamble. They are redesigning the most popular operating system interface in the entire world. This has become ingrained in our lifestyle since Windows 95 appeared on the marketplace so many years ago. Now, you understand, you'll see out there with most people, change is good. Nobody minds change as long as nothing's different as a result, right? And so that's what we're seeing here with the reactions to Windows 8 in a lot of places. Now, here's what's going on. Why do we have Windows 8 coming out, and why does it look like it does and feel the way it does? The tablet and the smartphone have changed the world. And obviously, we're talking about Apple's iPad and Apple's iPhone. Now, we thought the internet was big, but the onset of the tablet and the smartphone has absolutely changed the way we think about the internet, the way we deal with the internet, and it really has made it kind of a ubiquitous part of our life. We don't even think about the internet anymore. It's just kind of happening in the palm of our hands. The internet's now mobile, and it is absolutely ingrained. In surveys now, a lot of people are responding to questions like, what if you had to live without your smartphone, your tablet? And people aren't saying, wow, it'd be tough or whatever. They're saying, I simply couldn't function and do the things I do without it. And that is pretty drastic. Now, the answer to what we're dealing with, though, is that we have a lot of different devices, but they have different interfaces. Now, think about this. You work on your desktop, and you can do all kind of cool things in the Windows 7 operating system or Vista or XP, whatever you have. But then when you grab that iPad, it's really cool, but it's a totally different operating system. Then when you go from your iPad over to a MacBook or MacBook Pro, you got a little different interface there. Same thing for the iPhone, a little bit different, a lot more similar to iPad, but all kind of little things. Flash don't work here, Flash is over there. You know, you can't attach email photos different ways. And so that has really kind of become the new point of pain. Now, screen sizes also vary. If you're a developer, if you sell and develop applications, if you design applications for corporate environments, you got different screen sizes, and guess what? That's not going away. You're just going to have to deal with it. So that's a problem. And with all these different operating systems, different devices that we carry with us under different circumstances, a change here really should be a change there. If I make a change to a file on my smartphone, it should be on my desktop when I get to the office. If I make a change on my desktop at the office, I download some music, download some instructional video, save a document, I should be able to find that on my tablet when I get home that night. And so that's what really needs to happen now. So the big question is kind of the white elephant in the room that everybody ends up asking. And I've been to 2 Microsoft Windows 8 development rollouts and administrative things, and the big question that comes up, and they always kind of taunt you for it, and they say, okay, there's a question everybody here is wanting to ask, and we'll give you a little hint. It has the word Apple in it. And the question is, doesn't Apple already own this market? I mean, is this kind of a waste of time? Well, look at the numbers. In 2010, Apple owned 87% of the tablet market. Now, don't take this as a negative swipe on Apple. I own an iPad. I live with an iPhone in my hand. I love their products, okay? But they owned 87% of the tablet market in 2010. In 2012, that will be down to 62% at best. A lot of different Wall Street firms and various technology gurus are projecting 62% as the best number. Now, the tablet or slate, and watch that terminology there. In the Microsoft world, these things are slates, okay? In the Apple world, they're iPads or their tablets, but slate, The market is huge and growing. Okay, there's no visible end in sight here. As a matter of fact, there seems to be a lot of market research saying that some smaller devices, various size devices for different situations, are certainly a very real aspect of the marketplace. Now, what does Microsoft plan to bring to this market? What are they going to add that we don't already have that's going to make them a player, considering everything that's happened so far? Well, first of all, Microsoft Windows is the most popular operating system in the world. This is why we're seeing the outcry and the moaning and complaining about, oh no, I don't like the new start menu. I don't get it. I'm lost. Where's my desktop? I don't see a start button. There's just all this concern out there, and it's very real. The first time I looked at it, I'm like, what? Are they kidding? Now, Windows 7 and XP, look at this number, run on 75% of the PCs out there in the marketplace. That is an unbelievable number when you consider how long computers have been around now. What else has survived to that level? Apple's OS X and their iOS, iPhone, iPad operating systems makes up about 10 to 15% of the market, depending on who you look at. And here is the answer to the question, why Windows 8? The operating system has not become standard across form factors. That is Microsoft's goal. That is why Windows 8. As you begin to work with Windows 8, it's very interesting to understand the design goals and the attributes that Microsoft really wanted to hit with Windows 8. Now, first of all, Windows 8 is designed on three basic facts about computers that Microsoft has uncovered in the last few years. First of all, machines not connected to the internet 24/7 are becoming more and more of an oddity. So if you've got a computer that's not internet connected, that's rare. People use their computers now as social devices. We really don't use them as computers. We use them more or less as lifestyle devices. They're such an ingrained, normal, everyday part of our life that they're treated differently and they're used very differently than they were just a few years ago. Then laptops and smaller screen devices are becoming far more popular than desktops. Now, this flies in the face of OS design, of web design, and a lot of other things, and quite frankly, these things are just going to have to change in the very near future. Now, Microsoft had 7 distinct design goals for Windows 8. First of all, the user interface has to be fast and fluid. It can't drag. When you touch, when you move, something needs to happen. Responsive, high performance, it has to be visually pleasing, and it has to be animated. And we have to stress efficiency with the operating system. So that's what Microsoft is chasing, and the things that you don't need are out of the way. Now, you can get to settings and you can get to things to make adjustments, but if you don't need certain settings to send an email, then those need to be out of the way. What we need to do to send an email needs to be very apparent on the screen, very clean, very minimal, and you just need to get it done. Long battery life for these devices. Microsoft did everything they could to reduce memory consumption because that's what really starts to drain power. Reduced CPU utilization, again, very, very effective down at the assembly language level on the processor, and reduced graphics processing, or GPU. You'll see it mentioned quite a bit. And so anything that we can do to make the device live and last longer as we go throughout the day without requiring a charge. The next thing was Windows 8 apps really had to work with both the mouse for the desktop machines and for your finger with the small touch devices and the various form factors. The Windows 8 apps have to offer fast access to apps and services, and those apps needed to be linked together. They need to speak to one another without us having to tell them to do that. They need to share content. We don't need to mention or enter names, addresses, various data over and over and over. We need to make that information sharing fluid. It needs to be based on the app. And also the apps need to be full screen, because as we work with smaller and smaller screen sizes, for example on our smartphones and on other small reading devices, we need to get as much real estate as we can and be able to see and work. Live tiles. We need one view to all of our data and all of our apps, not have to go to 4 different screens or drag or open or click. We need to see it all right there. All the important information that we determine we need needs to be in a single location, and we need to easily personalize that data. Next, the OS has to be time-saving. We want to expose important information as part of the OS operation, not as part of some window you have to chase, as part of something you have to double-click or do a setting on or right-click. And we need to be very limited steps to data access. We need to get at our data really quick. Roaming experiences between PCs. We're going to utilize cloud technologies here. Data needs to sync with content across all of your Windows 8 devices, whether you're in the office on your desktop, whether you're in the car with a smartphone, whether you're sitting in a park somewhere or in a meeting with a tablet or a slate. The data just needs to be there, and your experience needs to move. And then here's the big one. The PC simply has to become a device, not a computer. The PC has become such an essential part of life in many different forms that all those forms need to look the same, they need to act the same, they need to show us our data in the same way. The world of not having Flash on this and not having this app on that and all needs to go away, and that's what Windows 8 is designed toward, and that's the gamble Microsoft's making. That's where they're headed here. So keep that in mind as you look through these examples and you get to know Windows 8 a little more. Think about a world where every device you own that's a computer has this same interface and all your data resides there. That's the Windows 8 design goals. Probably the biggest concern that people have anytime a new operating system shows up on the block is, wait a minute, how different is this going to be from the one that I know and that I'm used to and that I'm comfortable with? And so in this short video, I want to just kind of tell you the differences or the similarities, if you will, between Windows 8 and Windows 7. Well, first of all, Windows 7 is the foundation for Windows 8. Now, Microsoft, contrary to what you may be hearing in the hysteria out there on the internet and so forth, Microsoft fully recognizes and understands and values the experience and the comfort level you have with their interface on Windows 7. And so this is a very strong foundation for Windows 8, and you're going to see an awful lot of Windows 7 in Windows 8. Now, there are 2 types of applications in Windows 8. One of these you've never seen before, and it's the one that's kind of scaring people, and that is you have native Windows 8 applications, and these are called Metro apps or Metro applications, or you'll just hear them called Metro. And then you have non-Metro applications, and these are the things we've been using all the time up till now. These are things that run on the desktop in the old Windows 7 type environment, Windows 7, Vista, XP, so forth. Now, application compatibility on Windows 8 is really quite simple. If it runs on Windows 7, it runs on Windows 8. It's going to be very, very rare that you find something that will run on Windows 7 and won't function on Windows 8. If it runs on Vista, generally it runs on Windows 8. Again, it's going to be rare that you find something that runs on Vista that doesn't run on Windows 8. The architecture between Windows 7 and Vista was very similar as far as application environments, and so you're going to be okay there. Now, if it runs on XP, it may run on Windows 8. Notice that word may there, and you'll just have to test it and see. There are some architectural changes, but again, these happen on Vista and Windows 7, and then some minor issues with Windows 8 could create some issues for you. Now, the desktop that you're going to see inside Windows 8 is basically Windows 7. About 90 to 95% of everything you see is going to be Windows 7. As a matter of fact, I've run Windows 8 through all the various, consumer previews and the release preview and so forth. And I'd be out in a Starbucks here in Nashville, and people would see me working on the desktop. They don't know that I'm on Windows 8. It looks and feels just like Windows 7. But then when they would see me switch out to the Metro apps and stuff, had a few people comment on it. But there are enhancements for certain tools and functionalities, even in Windows 7, but you're going to like what you see. Task Manager has been enhanced. The disk repair tool has been enhanced. Lots of other little things that just keep showing up. They're pleasant surprises. They're not things that prevent you from working with the operating system by any stretch. Now, there is an excellent technical resource, and let me stress technical here, okay? If you are an administrator or if you work on the server side of the Microsoft world, there is a Windows 8 release preview and Windows Server 2012 release candidate compatibility cookbook. Now, don't worry about the release preview and the release candidate parts of this. This is a great resource. It's not named very well, and I've put it for you out there in the work files folder, so go check that. But this is a very technical document for those of you on the server side to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the architecture and with some of the security functionalities that involves Windows 8 as the client and Windows Server 2012 as the server environment. Okay, so if you're a technical nerd, go read that. If you're just an end user who wants to know how to run Word and read email and do some basic functionalities, but you're not going to do any back office, group policy and all that stuff, then don't worry about this, okay? But I'll throw it out there for the admin types. Now, Windows 7 knowledge and experience, all that stuff that you've built up does transfer to Windows 8. Do not panic. Don't worry about some of the naysayers that you're seeing all out there in the media about how horrible Windows 8 is and how it's just a drastic difference and it's all so horribly different. Not so. By the end of this course, you're going to like what you see in Windows 8. Okay, so rest assured, everything you know and are comfortable with Windows 7 is going to transfer right over and you'll be cooking in no time. Let's talk about Windows 8 terminology just a moment. And I hate to do this to you, but you need to be aware of something that's going to cause you a little bit of confusion as you start to look at documentation and as you Google things out there and as you hear people talk about Windows 8. Now, the term Metro has been used quite a bit, and I'll use it a lot in this course. And Metro has been the buzzword for Windows 8 since we first heard the first rumors, little hints began to leak out of Microsoft about the next major upgrade to the Windows operating system. The term Metro has been the one identifying feature of the new OS. Now, in August of 2012, we started kind of hearing these little rumblings, and then, I don't know, around the first, maybe second week of August, it's like the earth began to shake as far as Microsoft's concerned and as far as their developers were concerned, and things started to leak out. Hey, wait a minute, Metro's going away. Well, everybody thought, wow, wait a minute, what's going on here? This whole idea of Metro apps is going away. Well, no. What actually happened is Microsoft suddenly renamed Metro apps to Windows 8 apps. Now, you can debate about whether this is a good idea or not, whether they should do it, but the fact of the matter is you're going to hear the term Metro connected to Windows 8 for quite a long time because they have kind of embedded this into developers and administrators' terminology now for all of the development phase. And Microsoft's advising that Metro was a code name for the new functionality during their product development. And I don't want to sound like I'm stirring the pot or anything, but for developers and for administrators who have been going to Microsoft events for quite a few months, all the way through this process, they've heard the term Metro banded as a major functionality of the software. Well, as of mid-August, Microsoft changed the developer guidelines. And I can't remember exactly when it was, first or second week, somewhere around in there. You can go Google it and chase it. But Microsoft changed the developer guidelines, and they said when you submit an app to go into Windows 8 into the store, if you have the word Metro as part of the app name, it will be declined, and you'll have to go make that change. And so Microsoft's clearly moving away from the term Metro. And a lot of speculation about why. Maybe they're trying to get a new start on marketing. There's been speculations about some sort of crosstalk with other companies that use the term Metro. But just understand that you're going to be confused about this a little bit as you dig into Windows 8 and as you read about it And you'll even hear me say Metro quite a bit in this course, because amongst developers, Metro is what this thing's known as. Amongst the early adopters of this, Metro is what the name is known as. And even though Microsoft's changed it, it hasn't gained a whole lot of traction out there in the actual working world with the software. So you may hear this, and I just don't want you to get confused. But Metro is one of those names that you're going to hear some people using. Others are going to call it Windows 8 apps. And it'll be a while before this shakes down. But we always go through this with new operating systems. So this is just one of the things with Microsoft. So call it Metro if you would like. If you're going to be a developer, it's a Windows 8 app, and you're going to hear both terms out there in the marketplace and on the internet for quite a while. So I just wanted to help you out, keep you out of the dark woods here.